Hey, let me show you something. Come on. Come on. Here, have a look at this. Right here. All right, welcome back to episode 118 of Chaotically Intolerant. It's been a great day of football. I'll say that. It's been a fantastic day of football. Witching hour was insane. Two great games, and then the Eagles and Cowboys always end in fireworks. So it's a great day to be a football fan.
It was man, the late window, I mean, had two games that were kind of duds, but the Cowboys and Eagles really made up for it. I mean, that was truly a game of inches. So many little plays that Dallas didn't make, and you had some good finishes early, some good feel-good stories too. Josh Dobbs, one of them for the Vikings. Falcons doing what they always do, finding a way to snatch a defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah, it was a good day of football. We needed a day like this, didn't we? Baseball's
Yeah, we
over.
definitely did. It's been, I would say, the past few weeks have been, I mean, not duds because it's football, but they haven't been awesome, to say the least. And to have something like this, I think it needed it, especially after baseball just concluded. It was important. The script writers did good. They did very good.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Thursday game. So the Steelers win 20-16. They just keep doing it. They can't keep getting away with it, right? It's crazy.
They've been doing it for as long as Mike Tomlin's been there, so it's not surprising anymore. And I think that Kenny Pickett, you can say what you want, his numbers aren't that great. He threw for only 160 yards, but Steelers historically know how to win the big moments of games. They know how to win late in games. They know how to not panic. I mean, some people might feel like they're one of the worst 5-3 teams we've ever seen, but they're 5-3. A lot of teams that would kill to be 5-3 right now. And they ran the ball well, which when the Steelers win at any point in their history, they run the ball well. And they racked up 166 yards on the ground, and Deontay Johnson had a big night. So this is not, the Big Ben Steelers teams that feel like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Definitely not. But classic overachievers. And the Titans have just they were overachievers for a while. They were kind of like what the Steelers were. They were kind of like an aspiring Steelers team. And now they just feel like a disappointment. Like they teased us, 2019, 2020. They've got Derrick Henry. He's a great player. Will Levis looked pretty solid, but they just feel like a disappointment.
I have an opinion on Will Levis that it's not great right now because of, he's playing pretty well, I would say. I think his deep ball does not look good. I think a lot of people say his spiral looks awesome, that it's a beautiful spiral. I don't like it. I think that thing looks like it's going to fall right out of the air and into the defender's hands. Maybe it's just me, but I don't like the spiral. I don't think it looks good. He's been great for 2 games, but when you look at the three touchdown game to D-Hop, right? 2 of those passes, I think, were pretty bad passes. One was a clear OPI on D-Hop. The other one was way underthrown, I think, and D-Hop had to make an adjustment to go get it. The other one was a drop in the bucket. But he hasn't really shown like the typical quarterback things. Now he's able to win, but there isn't a lot of tape on the guy in the NFL. And I wouldn't be shocked if in the next few weeks he really comes back down to earth.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans too, Are they going back to Tannehill? Or, I mean, this is permanent, right? I mean, Will Levis has
I,
become.
they can't go back. I mean, they can't. He was horrible.
I think so. I mean, but then this turns into kind of a rebuild, doesn't it? A little bit, kind of growing pains. What do we call this? What are the Titans? Are they in transition?
Well,
Are they rebuilding? What?
you get rid of Byard, right? And I think that was like okay, they're completely resetting. They're hitting the reset button. They're tearing the whole damn thing down. At the end of the year, Vrabel might get fired, and then he could go be the DC for Belichick. But I feel like they didn't deal Henry, and everyone thought they were going to deal Henry. They're just kind of like, I don't want to do it, but they just need to rip the Band-Aid off. It's time. This team is, I mean, you're 3-5 at this point. You've lost to the Colts, who you beat them 7 straight games, and now you lost to them. And you lose to the Steelers team that's not very good, but they just find ways to win. Is there really much left to play for this Titans team at this point? Because you're definitely not winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're not winning a Super Bowl. They're just kind of. Yeah, they're in a weird state, and it's not quite like baseball where you could trade a guy and get like a few good prospects, and who those prospects are. I mean, in football, it's you trade them for these picks, and you don't know who those picks are going to be. Could be
Yeah.
some guy who blows out his ACL and is never the same. So this idea, they trade Henry, and is that the way that you start a rebuild? I guess maybe if you get a first round pick for him, that's pretty good. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because it felt like the Titans were close. It felt like they were
Yeah.
close, and if they had someone, step in at the quarterback position and elevate above Tannehill, they might have had a chance to win the whole thing. But you just knew he wasn't going to be the guy. But hey, I just saw a thing on as a headline, one of the little side bars on ESPN. It was Steelers are good at nothing except winning the game. Pretty
That's
well
at
said.
the end of the day, that's all you got to do, right?
Pretty well said.
And I really think Titans fans are going to look back on that AJ Brown trade and think, what the fuck were
Yeah,
they
well,
doing?
that was supposed to be part of a rebuild, and it hasn't done much for him. So,
I mean, you would have thought he could have been a big help. You would think in the last 3 years. How long has he been in Philly? 3 seasons now.
I want to say just 2, right? I think last
2.
year when they got him, or was he there in 2021? I feel like it's just last year, and
Let's
that's what elevated the Eagles. Yeah, I mean he went to the Eagles just last year, so he was a Titan for 3 years through 21. And the Eagles were a 9-8 team in 2021 that got hammered in the wild card game by the Bucks. They had AJ Brown, and I'm not saying it was just AJ Brown, but that was a big reason that they took that leap to Super Bowl team last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Even last year, you look at the Titans, they missed the playoffs. I think AJ Brown could have been a big help for them.
Sure.
He really could have. He could have put them over the top just to not lose that many games, down the stretch. But I think Titans fans are going to be thinking about that for a long time. Let's go to the Germany game. I'm sick and tired of the international games. I'm
Yeah.
already sick of them.
Yeah.
The first, I think
Next
when they
week.
have 2 and they're spread out, I'm happy with them. It's fine. It's a cool little thing. You get a little treat in the morning. It's too many. I don't care about bringing the international market. Bring the NFL Europe back. That's what I care about.
Right.
The Chiefs only put up 14 offensive points. Is
Yes.
this a sign for panic? Yeah.
By the way, I agree with you on the international games. 2006 was the last year that went through an NFL season, didn't have a game played outside the United States. Colts won the Super Bowl that year, by the way. Colts are playing in Germany next week. Cause for concern? No. I looked at it and I was like, well, first of all, of course, how ironic that Tyreek Hill's fumble wins a game for the Chiefs. That was the difference in the game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not quite the same explosive offense right now, the Chiefs, but the Dolphins, I looked at the Dolphins. I take more away from it for Miami, right? You could say, well, Miami beat Denver 70-20, and then Denver beat the Chiefs last week. So how come Miami couldn't beat the Chiefs? Well, the NFL doesn't work that way. Miami's 3 losses have been to elite teams. And there's 2 schools of thought. You say, well, if you lose to good teams and maybe you're still good because it's okay, those are excusable losses. I kind of feel almost the opposite because they've kind of like even today. You looked at 21-14. Miami kind of got flattened. It was an ugly, ugly first half.
Mhm.
Pass protection was a problem. They got hammered by Philadelphia, and they really got hammered by the Bills, who hammered
Philly,
them.
they were in that game. Their penalties really killed them. I think they really, and Philly had no penalties, if I'm correct.
Well, okay, so maybe I my memory was fuzzy on that one, but they lost that game by 14 points,
Yeah.
and penalties killed them today,
Mhm.
sacks and penalties. And so to me, that's always coaching. And it's a sign that you have problems on your offensive line. And we already knew that because Tua Tagovailoa is, it's a hazard risk. And the Chiefs are just the Chiefs are the Steelers, but better. They find ways to win and they're good,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I'm looking at the AFC and I see, oh, okay, Miami's got 6 wins and Buffalo's supposed to be pretty good. Cincinnati's supposed to be pretty good, and the Jags are 6-2, and I know the Ravens are playing well, but it just feels like all that other stuff is noise, and then there's just the Chiefs. And so until I see somebody really like a good team, a contending team, go in and kick the stuffing out of the Chiefs, or I mean, that's kick the stuffing. And I know Denver beat them last week. That just felt like one of those weird, like,
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at it, Mahomes was sick, and I know a lot of people don't like to use that excuse, but when when you're the Super Bowl champions, you've won it twice in the last 5 years, you've been there so many times, I think you do earn the benefit of the doubt.
yeah, of course. And Mahomes had never lost a division road game, so it was just at some
Yeah.
point that was going to happen, and Denver's playing better. So, but it still feels like the Chiefs are on their own plane in the AFC. It may not be that much higher now. It may be a little more. The gap may have closed a little bit, but they just find a way. Miami and Tua still it may kept them in the game, but they both quarterbacks were under 200 yards. I mean, we were like thinking, oh, Dolphins Chiefs, this could be like 41-38. What a fun game this is going to be. And each team scored 2 offensive touchdowns, and both quarterbacks had. And maybe there's something in under 200 yards. Both maybe there's something to this. Playing at 9:30 in Germany. I mean, this game at Arrow, you wonder. And I'm not saying it would have been different, but if they played this game at Arrowhead Stadium, of course, you got to have the Tyreek Hill story. Would have been fun to see him,
Yeah.
with the crowd and all that. Number one, and two, you wonder if that game would have been like 31-28 if played at Arrowhead on a Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
just you're like the NFL has beyond watered down. And I feel for guys like you that are this is more like the time you're growing up watching football. And to me, it was 15, 20 years ago. And it was just, it just feels different now. And you're right. The international games, that's a bad thing. That Thursday night football, if I could have 2 wishes when it comes to football, get rid of probably both of those. Well, in 17 games, of course, but
I'm 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 perfectly fine with Thursday night football. I think honestly it's more taken over Monday night football. Monday night football is a historic thing. I think it has to be there no matter what. But the Thursday night football games have been a lot better than the Monday night games. Just in matchup quality, I think just even preseason matchup quality. You look at some of these Monday night games, like what the fuck are they thinking when they're putting these teams together? But you do look at the Sunday night game last week. Even preseason, who thinks of Chicago and LA in LA being the game? I mean, you had the 49er game, 49ers Bengals, two preseason Super Bowl contenders. Could have put them there. I mean, there was a few other games you could have put over a non-rivalry game in a city that literally does not care. They don't give a fuck about football. But whatever. I want to get back to the Chiefs because the international, I just can't stand it. Get rid of the international games. Fuck them. They're horrible. Um, there's no formula to succeed in the international games. Miami got there they got there early. They came out flat. The Chiefs got there late. They came out and they were actually a little hot to start. They went up 21 nothing. Kansas City's earned the benefit of the doubt for me. That until they lose, they will always be the favorite in my book. They will always be that, and even they'll always be a top 5 team because you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, two probably top 3 combination tight end quarterback, I would say, of all time. I mean, there's obviously Brady and Gronk, and Tony Gonzalez never really had that Hall of Fame quarterback to be considered a top combination. You look at Miami. This is, I mean, it's a problem. They're on fraud watch here. I mean, Mike McDaniel, especially at the end of the game, he freaks out. I think his play calling freaks out because they run the ball well. Raheem Mostert, 12 for 85. He was averaging 7.1. On that final drive, he had a 25-yard rush and a 19-yard rush to get him into Kansas City field goal range. He had just over a minute, 2 timeouts, and you don't run the ball at all after that. You try to throw it 4 times in a row,
Yeah,
and
thought that too. Yeah, and how about you're going to be a competent football team and you're playing another big team and you lose the game on a fumbled fourth down snap? I mean,
yeah,
fraud alert.
and I
Hey,
mean Tua missed a touchdown because the ball flew at like slipped out of his hand. What the fuck was that throw? I mean, the thing went 10 yards short. I know, and I'm a Tua apologist. I think he's actually better than a lot of people expect. I don't think he's the MVP anymore. I think this was the game that says you're not the MVP because this was a big game. This was a very big game, and they lose this. I mean, you could possibly get the number one seed over the Chiefs if you win this game. You're probably going to win the division. Who in the AFC East? I mean, Buffalo is right there, but they're not. They're really not. Let's have that conversation. Not yet, but Buffalo is not there.
yeah, the Chiefs are the new Patriots. I mean, just however you would see the Patriots winning games for 2 decades, it's just this is exactly what the Patriots would do. And it
And
just
I know, especially the Patriots, because everybody is dancing on their graves, acting like their season's over. When they lost to Denver, people were saying, "Oh, Mahomes is done. Mahomes is horrible." We did the same thing with Tom Brady. I don't understand why we're doing it. I don't understand why we can't just learn from our mistakes. But the Chiefs are going to be there in
wishful thinking. Of
January.
course, it's
And
wishful thinking. Yeah,
yeah,
the Patriots would never. I mean, not never, but rarely lose two in a row. They don't lose after bye. I mean, the
they
other
don't lose division games. They never lost division games, and the Chiefs barely lose division games.
right, and it's the other teams just make mistakes, and the Patriots would wait to capitalize. And again, the AFC. A lot of these teams have just been so mediocre for so long that the door is open if there is a team that has that elite quarterback coach combo to just dominate the conference. Don't see it in the NFC, but you've seen it in the AFC since basically the turn of the century.
I think if you look at the great teams, the first thing those teams are able to do is dominate the division.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 6 free wins right there. You start the season knowing, okay, we're at least going to win 5 to 6 games. That
Yeah.
is the standard, basically. And then you go through, you look at, okay, well, we're playing this other division. We're playing two of these teams suck. There you go. There's 7, 8 wins. I mean, you just keep adding up these wins that are almost like automatics for
Sure.
these teams. No matter like on their level of good, like, maybe the Chiefs have a little bit of a down year, but they're still good. They're still going to win their division games. That's what good teams do. They win their division games. And that's what the Chiefs do. That's what the Pats did. I wasn't alive for the Niners, but I'm sure when the Niners had their run, that's exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They are the Patriots, and I'm never going to doubt them. This was a shitty stretch for them, but they're going to find their way back easily. Let's move to probably the second best game of the day. Best feel-good story, in my opinion. Josh Dobbs comes in after he gets off the plane, walks into the stadium. He's the backup. Starter goes out. They say, Dobbs, you're fucking in, dude. And he wins the game. He's Superman. And you can't help but think the 2017 Vikings lost their starter midway through the season. Case Keenum came in, and he took them to the NFC Championship. Now, this Vikings team was 0-3 to start the season. They're 5-4 now. They're 4-1 in their last 5. I mean, is it possible? Can we look at that team and say, hey, Josh Dobbs might be the guy to get them there?
Well, Josh Dobbs is undefeated all time in postseason games. He's 0-0. Kirk Cousins has one postseason win as Vikings quarterback. I don't know. I mean, the bar now is so low, and you bring in Josh Dobbs. The numbers weren't great. I mean, and early on it was pretty ugly. He gave up a safety. It was a sack early in the game. It was like 5-3. Then it was 8-3. And it was 11-3. It was like this did not profile as the game of the day or one of the games of the day. But the Vikings, you know what? The Vikings went out. They got Cam Akers, and he hasn't really done all that much. But he actually got a sack today. Trying to throw a pass. But the Vikings now, they win a close game. They come from behind on the road. Here's the thing: the Lions are what, 6-2, 7-2, 6-2, I think, or had a bye, or have a
I
bye
think
week.
they are on their bye this week.
It looked like the Lions were just going to coast to the division, but the Lions and Vikings have yet to face each other. So there's a chance that the Vikings can actually make a race of the NFC North. And I think it's a great story for Josh Dobbs, because you know what? As bad as the Cardinals' record was, Dobbs didn't play terribly there. He's got a win against
No.
Dallas under his belt. Of course, it's the Cardinals' only win, and he has a win now in his first start as a Viking. And I just look at the other side, and this was such an Atlanta loss. If you could say, well, Josh Dobbs comes in, he wins his first start. Who was it against? Oh, it was Atlanta, and they had a lead late in the game. All right, of course they did.
Well, this is the Spider-Man meme, the pointing Spider-Man meme.
Yeah,
because these two franchises are the exact same.
pretty much. I mean, you're right. I mean, neither have won a Super Bowl. Of course, these teams met to produce one of the great championship games of all time before your time, 1998. Gary Anderson missed field goal game. The Vikings were 15-1 and ended up losing. A lot of people think of that as one of the greatest teams that didn't win a Super Bowl. Atlanta, of course, went on and got their butts kicked by Denver. But the Falcons, this was such an opportunity for them in an NFC South where first place was 500 going into this game. Taylor Heineke comes in, he threw one bad interception that kind of turned the game. And I don't know. The Falcons just don't know what to do with a lead. And it felt like they had this game on multiple occasions. And I really didn't take them seriously before this game. But had they won it, they're 5-4, and they're in the thick of it in the NFC South. I'd say, and I like Heineke, because I do. But this was just a big missed opportunity for Atlanta. So
yeah, this is a game that you look back on. If Atlanta misses out by a game, you look back on it and say this was the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the backups in, obviously the Vikings' original backup was in. You knock him out. Usually that's a death blow for most teams. I mean, at this point, they're on the third string quarterback, which is Josh Dobbs. And I was excited when Minnesota got him. He's going to have some better weapons. KJ Osborne did leave the game, but Alexander Mattison had a big game today. And then when you get Jefferson back, assuming he's going to want to come back, that's going to be another weapon for him. But, Atlanta, you're a game back now when you could be tied. And it was the most Atlanta way to lose. The only other team I think you compare them to is the Chargers, when the Chargers and the Falcons played a few years ago.
Yeah,
but these two...
That's the Spider-Man meme, yeah.
Yeah. This is the NFC Spider-Man meme, and right. I would love to see them play again in the NFC Championship, just because, for my own sick mind, it'd be hilarious. But now you're a five-loss Atlanta team. At this point, if you have 5 losses, it's difficult. You're probably not winning the division. You have to really think about that. I mean, I don't know if you're going to win that division, even if it's the NFC South. That's going to be a tough one to win. So this is the one you miss out on. It's going to be tough to swallow. Jonnu Smith was also the leading receiver when you have 3 first-round picks on offense. And Arthur Smith is this offensive genius.
Yeah, right.
Come on, man. Get 3 of those guys in the mix. Like Tyler Algier, I think, was their leading rusher today.
Yep.
Refusal to use those guys. No, Bijan Robinson was, but he got 11 carries. Tyler Algier got 12. So why are you giving him more carries than Bijan Robinson? I don't get it. Not much to talk about in this game. Browns Cardinals. I was playing against the Browns defense, and in our fantasy league, defense is ranked really high. We have it weighted a lot of points, so they had 94 points in our fantasy league. So I'm fucked. Fuck the Cardinals, because I've lost. But there's not really much else. I mean, Deshaun Watson is back, but who really cares?
Right. He did. I thought he'd be rusty, but it didn't matter. I mean, he had a touchdown pass that was tipped up in the air and then went right to Amari Cooper. And yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are awful. I'd never heard of Clayton Tune before today. I didn't know that was a real person. 58 yards passing, 2 interceptions. I think Kyler Murray should probably be playing quarterback. Uh, that's all I got to say about that. Browns are 5-3. The Browns are 5-3, and
they're just like the Steelers, I think.
they're kind of overachieving. Yeah, they're in it. They're in it. I keep wanting to say it's the midway point in the season, but I forget that play 17 games now, so it's not quite the midway
18
point.
weeks.
18 weeks, right? The midway
So
point.
week 9.
Sure, but yeah, the Browns did what they had to do.
Yeah, that's it. Rams Packers. I don't know who watched this game. I barely saw it on Red Zone today. Packers 20, Rams 3. I mean, Jordan Love had a good game. Packers are 3-5, so you're really not doing much. Really.
Yeah, they ran a lot. I mean, they put up a lot of yards of offense against the Rams, which they should. Brett Rippon. I mean, the Rams. I don't know. They probably need a better backup quarterback. Last year they were going with guy Bryce Perkins played, and Brett Rippon. Come on, son or nephew of Super Bowl winner Mark. I always forget. I don't think it's the son. Yeah, it was ugly. I mean, Packers outgained him by over 200 yards. But like again, it's 3-5. Like you said, 5 losses. You're probably done. But like, it's always that glimmer of hope at 3-5 because the Packers are like the NFC Steelers, right? They could always overachieve, and for no reason, you blink and they could be like 7-7 and right in it with 3 games to go. I don't know.
It's gonna be a tough one for the Packers. I think they are actually now closer to a playoff spot than to the first pick. So
yeah,
that's promising for Packers fans, I guess. The other thing is it really makes you think about how difficult it is to play quarterback in the NFL when there's a guy, Brett Rippon, who, I mean, you've never heard of him, and he is horrible. Same thing with the Cardinals. 2 guys you've literally never heard of, and they were just so bad. I don't know. It just makes me think it's a lot harder than anybody else thinks.
Well, Brett Rippon played a little bit with Denver. I actually had heard of him, and that's why I couldn't believe he's still playing because there's got to be somebody better out there. I mean, Clayton Tune might have done as good a job.
Carson Wentz is out there. I know. I mean, he's got to be better. He has to be better than Clayton Tune or Brett Rippon.
Yeah,
can't imagine he's not. All right, Saints Bears. Nobody wanted to win this game. Well, actually, the Saints really didn't want to win this game. I felt like they had this thing wrapped up about 4 different times in the fourth quarter, and they just kept giving the Bears the ball back, and the Bears couldn't do anything with it towards the end.
Yeah, the Bears ultimately had the 3 interceptions they threw and lost a couple fumbles. I mean, it was a lot of turnover. I mean, the fact that New Orleans forced 5 turnovers and still only beat the Bears by a touchdown.
That's a loss. I mean, it should be a loss.
Should be a loss. Yeah, I mean, the Bears hung in there as much as you probably could have expected. And this was, I think, the biggest or tied or second biggest spread of the week, right? And I guess the Bears technically covered the spread. They had more first downs. They had more yards than the Saints. I mean, talk about uninspired, but, still, the Saints are the one that comes out of this 5-4, and the Falcons come out 4-5. And the Vikings are obviously a better team than the Bears, but at least the Saints, as much as they suck today, did not squander the opportunity. They scored more points than the opposition, and they are in first place as a result. So say what you will, but they're smiling at the end of the day.
It's hard to win the NFL. I'll say that.
It's hard to win. The NFL. It's easy to win the NFC South.
Yeah. Another dud. Happy game for you. You love this game. Ravens 37, Seahawks 3. I'm going to say something that might not make you so happy. The Ravens really haven't played anybody that I think is a bona fide contender.
The Lions, I think that was their big.
The Lions, if I would say this, if that's the thing you're hanging on to, it's not bad, but I want to see them, and they don't play the Eagles or the Chiefs. And then you see the Bengals, but we know what division matchups are. Those things are all over the place. You really can't get a tell on a team by a division matchup. I got to see the Ravens beat the Chiefs or the Eagles, which, I mean, you could see them in the playoffs. That's a perfect time to beat them.
The Ravens' upcoming schedule is very, very tough. They've got Cleveland and Cincy. They've got the two LA teams, which is a
Division
little
battles are tough.
right, a little bit of a reprieve with the LA team sandwiched around a bye. But then
Mhm.
Jacksonville, San Francisco, Miami, Pittsburgh to close the season. So yes, from a schedule standpoint, I mean, look, they beat Houston in week 1. They weren't them yet. They beat the Bengals in week 2, and they were struggling early. So timing's worked out a little bit. They beat the Browns without Deshaun Watson. Tennessee, we've established, right? So yeah, I mean the Ravens in terms of like quality of wins, and of course they lost to your Colts and lost
And I'm
to
not saying they're bad. That's not what I'm
no,
saying
it's
either.
hard to tell. And they looked like they mostly beat up Arizona last week, but they let it get close really for no reason at the
Yeah.
end. I mean, they ended up winning that game by 7 points. They've been really good at home the last couple games. In fact, I mean, they've been good at home every game except for the Indianapolis game, but they ran the ball down Seattle's throat today. I mean,
Yeah.
298 yards. Now, granted, Lamar had 60 of those, but the other 238 were from, 230 were from running backs. Tyler Huntley had 8 yards late in garbage time. And the defense, I mean, to me, that's what really stood out today is that, and remember I mentioned Kyle Van Noy, 2 more sacks. I mean, the guy's found the fountain of youth. The Ravens know how to get
Yeah.
these old guys to come through for him on defense. Geno Stone picked off Geno Smith. It was a really good day for the Ravens defense as much as it was for the offense. It was a good all-around win. But again, will Jackson stay healthy? Will the Ravens be consistent? Will they beat good teams? Yeah, there's still a lot of questions, but 7-2, tied for the best record in the AFC. So I think this is a big year for John Harbaugh. I've been kind of one of the people saying like it's not even that Harbaugh's a bad coach. I mean, I have my problems with him, but he's just been there for so long. This is year 16. Sometimes you just want a new voice. If
Mm-hmm.
he can get the Ravens back into what feels like more of a championship level, at least, because in recent years, whether it's been Jackson being hurt or the defense hasn't been that good, it's exciting to see. But it's only the first half, and like I said, schedule gets much tougher, and we'll start
Yeah.
next week with the Browns.
Now, I'm going to say 2 things, 2 points. One, the Ravens, they are not a bad, I'm not saying they're a bad football team whatsoever. I don't want anybody to misconstrue that. They are a good football team. They are being talked about in the media as the best football team in the league, which I think is a little crazy
Yeah,
based on who they play. Now, I know they beat those 2 good teams up, but I can't say that until they go in and beat a perennial Super Bowl candidate. One team that we know will be in the conference title game at least. We know they're going to be there. And that, I mean, there's only 2, so it's kind of difficult to do that. The other thing is the Ravens are suddenly getting very good this year. Now, your head coach is quite close with the head coach of Michigan, who recently got really, really good. But now it's come out that there's a little bit of a cheating scandal. Is Connor Stallions also working with the Ravens?
no comment.
I just want to get that into the media. I would love to just create headlines. Just create that. That's good. Creating headlines is good for the show. But seriously, I give my props to the Ravens. Seahawks are a great offensive football team, and holding them to 3 points, especially like holding down DK Metcalf, isn't just an accomplishment on its own.
Yeah.
So congrats to the Ravens. I'm not shitting on them whatsoever. I'm asking reasonable questions, especially about Connor Stallions.
Okay.
Texans 39, Buccaneers 37. This is the greatest game I've ever seen from a rookie quarterback, both stat-wise and just nuts of steel. The Texans are now 4-4, couple games back of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now their defense or their offensive line is still a problem. It's a major issue that needs to be addressed in the offseason. And the Buccaneers, I mean, Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded head coach. He gave up 39 points to the Texans, and especially he did the thing that I hate, 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 hate. On the final drive of the game, he dropped into prevent, and you could just read it on everyone's faces that the Texans were going to go down and score a touchdown. That's exactly what they did. I couldn't believe it, but at the same time, I could, because I mean, the Bucs were just letting them do it.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised that the Bucs were even like able to battle back and score a lot.
This was a crazy game. This was
It
the
was.
best game of the day.
It was, and you know, I could have told you that the Bucs 3-1 start. I think it was 3-1. Wasn't going to last.
Yeah,
they were going to start to fade. I mean, but CJ Stroud, man, that's kind of one of those games where it's like your first year, your first round pick, or second pick in the draft, and everyone wants to see you do something really big. 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, game winner. They had 300-yard receivers. I mean, just like an absurd game. Yeah. What a fun game. And I'm just saying, hey, D'Amico Ryans is doing a great job. He's doing a great job. They're 4-4. They only won 3 games all last year. Todd Bowles, I mean, yeah, kind of messed up.
He's got to go. He's got to go.
He does. Although, but no, in fairness, nobody is going to make this team, what they were 3 years ago when Brady.
No, absolutely not. But I think what they have right now, you have to tear it down. I think they can salvage it. I think they say, oh, well, Brady isn't here. That's fine. We can. No, Tom Brady is a different animal. You can't go get another quarterback and maybe add another piece and say, okay, we're the same. You can't. I'm sorry. That's just, you got to tear the whole thing down, fire Bowles, and, maybe make him your DC again. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But the Texans have restocked the cupboard. They've got some talent, and it starts with CJ Stroud. And they're a fun team. They're fun. I know you don't want to see a team in the AFC South be necessarily a good team, but Houston will be a problem. As they say, Houston will not have a problem anymore. They will be a problem.
Yeah, the AFC South is going to be really good. Yeah, and I'm all here for it because that's been the worst division in the league for a very long time. I honestly don't have much more to say about this game because it was so good. I think anybody listening to this probably saw the ending of that game, and you know how good it was. Or you can go fucking watch it on YouTube. I don't know. Colts Panthers. Well, the Colts won. It wasn't the most beautiful thing in the world. They had 2 defensive touchdowns. Kenny Moore had 2 pick sixes. But our offense looked horrible. I would love to see them run the ball to Taylor more. He is really starting to find his footing. I've been okay with Shane Steichen lately. I think Chris Ballard saved his job today. I thought if the Colts lost to the Panthers and the Pats, the Frank Reich-led Panthers and the Pats, when they're really bad in a standalone game, I thought Irsay would fire him in Germany. He would leave him in Germany, not even give him his fucking passport and say, figure your own way home. I think he did save his job for the time being. I think it's really coming down. I think he'll have a job for another year. He really needs to address the cornerback position. It's an issue. Tony Brown, I feel for the guy. He's a good special teams guy. This defense is just not. They're just not good enough. They really aren't. The Panthers, the 2 drives or the 2 pick sixes, the Panthers were driving the ball as well. So that was like a 28-point swing right there. I think Gus Bradley is just not a good defensive coordinator. He loves playing that cover 3 soft bullshit where you don't blitz. You say, we'll give you the underneath, but we're not going to let you go over top. That's awesome, but they're going to eat you alive. They are. You get enough 5-yard gains, you're going to get first downs and stuff. So I don't want to bore people with the Colts. Bryce Young looked awful. He did. He did not look good, but he's young. I want to give him time. But congrats to Chris Ballard. You saved your job. The official Saved Your Job of the Week award goes to Chris Ballard. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's another game where neither quarterback topped 200 yards. It was 100. They combined to throw for 300 yards.
Yeah, I love Minshew. He's not the guy. This Colts team is fun to watch. They've scored over 20 points in every single game they've played this year. They're the only team to do that, which compared to our offense last year, that's a pretty damn good thing, except our defense has been horrible. We could be 7-1 right now, realistically.
But hey, 2 pick sixes by Kenny Moore.
Yeah, I love to see Kenny Moore getting back. People are talking shit on Darius Leonard, saying he should be gone. I don't think so. Darius Leonard, just get back into it. He's older, I get it, but you got to give him some time. It's one game, and before this he wasn't getting a lot of snaps anyways. So give him time. They're ramping him up into November, and then we'll see where we're at. Giants Raiders. Congrats to the Raiders. This was the kind of like the Jeff Saturday game last year, except the Raiders were on the right side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Raiders famously lost to Jeff Saturday and Matt Ryan last year, Saturday's first game coaching. And the Raiders do the same thing. If the Raiders make the playoffs, should they just hire a head coach every year and then fire him 5 games into the season?
Yeah, I don't know, but they should have kept Rich Bisaccia when he took them to the playoffs in 2021. Yeah. That was just a mistake.
Yeah. Josh McDaniels I hate Josh McDaniels. I despise him. I'm so glad to see him go. He's just a cocky bastard who has nothing to be cocky about. What has he won?
No, that's a head coach. That's a very fair point. That's a very, very fair point. He's been fired twice mid-season by AFC West teams now. And he bailed on the Colts. The bar for the Raiders is set so low, he couldn't exceed it. And Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't exceed it. But today, they found a team that's more pathetic. And unfortunately, Daniel Jones, that's, you feel for him. And it's just a big setback season for the Giants. Some guy, Tommy, might as well be Danny DeVito playing quarterback.
Tommy DeVito, famous Goodfellow.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, Danny would probably do as good a job, but the Aiden O'Connell, he played solid. He played solid today. It's like, as awful as it feels that the Raiders are, they're 4-5. They're not, it just doesn't it feel like they're like 1-8?
I feel like they are the worst team in football, but there's a lot of really bad teams out there.
But they're 4-5. They have a pretty darn good running back. I think Josh Jacobs is top 10 running back in the league, maybe even top 7 or 8. I don't know what the deal is with Aiden O'Connell. Maybe he'll be decent. Again, maybe the bar is so low. Jimmy Garoppolo has a tendency to set the bar low. And they play in the AFC West, so they got to deal with the Chiefs twice. They haven't. Yeah. I don't think they've played the Chiefs yet. But yeah, as crazy as it sounds, like you said, you called it the Jeff Saturday game. The Raiders they're in it. They are in it. I don't know what it is, but they are in it.
Yeah, it's I don't think the script had the Raiders fans rooting for AOC. So, I didn't think they would be rooting for AOC this year, but here we are. Cowboys Eagles, this was the big late game of inches, quite literally. Dak obviously didn't make it on the 2-point conversion. What the fuck is his name? Their tight end, mere inches outside of catching a touchdown.
Yeah, Shoemaker. Yeah, that was.
I don't understand going for it. It was like it was 4th down. They're in field goal range. Could have kicked it. It was a 10 or 11-point game. He could have made it an 8-point game at that point. Don't get it, obviously, but this is the same thing. The Dallas fans are going to make excuses, and we're going to do the same dance where they're going to get in the wild card as a wild card team, and they're probably going to lose, or they're going to find either 49ers or the Eagles, and they're going to get their asses kicked in the playoffs. This Cowboys team failed to address 2 major needs, cornerbacks and wide receiver 2. Those were 2 major needs. They refused to go get them at the deadline, and they're going to pay because the Eagles got stronger.
The Eagles, that was a gritty win for them. They Hurts was limping. They had 2 corners that were hurt on that final drive. Goddard went down. This was a gutty win. And considering, Dallas always finds a way to lose. The Eagles are starting to feel like the Chiefs a little bit, right? And here we go with these 2 top teams just sort of steamrolling, and they'll play each other in a couple weeks. I mean, like you look at Dak's numbers, it's like 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a lot of that, of course, was CeeDee Lamb. Although Lamb actually didn't get in the end zone. Funny enough, he had 11 for 191. But the Cowboys have just for like 3 decades now found a way to lose games. I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it because it's talent, whatever. But there's so many close calls. You're right. I didn't agree with going for it on that fourth down. And it was weird because from the naked eye, it looked like he got it. From the naked eye, it
Yeah.
looked like Prescott got the 2-point conversion. Obviously, replay showed that it did, right? It was just like, must have been brutal watching this as a Cowboys fan.
Because it looked so blatant. It looked like, oh, he definitely got in.
He
There's no
got it. He
question.
caught it, and his momentum carried him into the end zone, but the knee was down. It was just, and I forget. I gotta see if I can find it on Twitter, but that last sequence for the Cowboys summed it up so perfectly. They had, what were they at the 6-yard line, and
Oh, horrible.
it was like false start, sack. It's a lay of game, and then a Hail Mary that was short of the end zone. I probably missed a piece in there, but it was so ugly. I mean, it was just so like you're at the 6-yard line. You think, well, if nothing else, and maybe the Cowboys don't score, or the Eagles hold them on 3 plays, 4 plays, whatever. But the Cowboys just lost it, and the Eagles. I mean, not taking anything away from the Eagles because they won. It's a division game. It's a big game for them. They're up 2.5 games in the division, but like, oh my God, this just Dallas. I don't know how a team can underachieve the way they do. But
that final sequence, they had a 35-yard DPI, and then Prescott had a 10-yard. Let's see. Oh, there was a penalty, roughing the passer, so 15 yards added on.
Right.
And then 1st and 10 from the Philly 25. Lamb had 14 yards, and then 1st and 10 from the Philly 11. They get a gift, encroachment on Philly that sends them 1st and 5 to the Philly 6. Let's see. Oh, and then immediate false start. I mean, it was like, oh my God, what the fuck are these guys doing? And then obviously Dak Prescott sacked. You cannot take a sack there. You had 27 seconds. You're going to have 4 shots at the end zone. You can't take a sack. And he does because they had no timeouts. Prescott then passing complete. And then another delay of game, which I called immediately. I was like, oh, delay a game. And then, I mean, you have 3rd and 26 at this point, and they actually do complete it to, who was it? To CeeDee Lamb. And then he fumbled, but he couldn't even get in the end zone anyway. So just embarrassing. I mean, if I'm a Cowboy fan, how many more times are they going to have to keep saying it? Because it's every year, every game.
And against Philly. And it was a game they needed, and it was a big swing in the standings where it's 2.5 games if, it's 2.5 games in the standings if you lose, which they did, or it's a half game.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it definitely puts the nail in Dallas's coffin as far as winning the division goes, but it really hurts. They'll play again on Christmas, but it's gonna be
if Philly wins, I think if Philly wins on Dallas's bye, that is the nail in the coffin. That'll put it at 3.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the Sunday night game a little bit. And then
we left New England on the table. We should throw New England in there.
Oh, we did forget about New England.
This was actually a pretty good game.
Yeah, I don't know how I skipped that. Commanders 20, Patriots 17. Patriots will be going to Germany next weekend. Play the Colts. I actually had the Commanders winning this game. I was kind of shocked that New England was a favorite here because the Commanders have been playing okay ball lately. They played Philly tough. And it just felt like another case of Mac Jones just not being the guy.
I actually had New England in this one. I thought they would win. But Sam Howell, he had 325 yards and he scrambled a few times for big runs. He also threw one horrendous interception for the half. And I thought that was going to do in the Commanders because it was 14-10 at that point. And New England had busted up a couple of big plays for touchdown. I mean, I know that Stevenson had like a 64-yard run. You're right. It feels like Mac Jones is just holding this team back. There's other issues, and Matthew Judon was out today, which didn't help. But I mean, again,
especially with the Redskin or the Sorry, Commanders line.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought Belichick. There were rumors apparently about him going to the Commanders, and thought, well, he'd really want to show the Commanders that he still got it as a coach. But hard to believe that New England is as bad because it doesn't feel like they should be that bad. So Mac Jones must be the problem, or must be a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I look at their 2-7 record, and I kind of say to myself, like, are they really 2-7? Maybe it's the logo, but I feel like they've been bad at moments, but they've also had moments where they play well. They beat Buffalo. They've played Miami tough. I don't care what the score was last week. They played them tough last week. And 2-7 just doesn't feel like an accurate representation of what this Patriots team really is.
Right.
But maybe it is because the logo is kind of fooling us.
Yeah, that must be it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this Sunday night game a little bit. I want to have the conversation about the Bills. Right now they're 5-3. It's 21-10 at the moment. Josh Allen, I've said it before, he can't take over games anymore. And I feel like there's this heavy reliance on throwing the ball to their stars when this team, Buffalo, I think historically they feel like a ground and pound team where, they play in Buffalo. I feel like they should be more of a ground and pound team, and they failed to go get a running back in the offseason. They failed to do it at the deadline. I think honestly, Zach Moss has showed out to be a really damn good back, and they missed out on him last year when they traded him to Indy. They could have probably come and got him. Zeke's over in New England. There were some calls about him. I feel like they're missing out. And this Bills team is just they're not what they should be.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, like, it just, I don't know. I don't know how do you fix them? There's just a part of me that feels like it's just Josh Allen just isn't that good. Is that like a hot take, or is that like is he
There's a lot
really?
of people that think he's better than Mahomes, which is just not true because he can't do what Mahomes did.
No way. No.
Josh Allen's biggest accomplishment at this very moment is taking Patrick Mahomes to overtime in the AFC Championship game.
Right. And they would have played the Bengals that wasn't the AFC Championship game.
Or the AFC Divisional.
They would have played the Bengals, and clearly, I mean, this is people were wondering about that game last year, the Damar Hamlin game, obviously, and it was like, well, but what if Buffalo had won that? They might have had a bye, and they didn't get a bye because they fumbled a snap at their own 1 yard line against the Vikings, right? Stupid things. The Bills are just a stupid football team. And is it coaching? Is it quarterbacking? Is it? I mean, they have talent, but are they as talented as people say? Tonight, they've run the ball 6 times for 19 yards, and they're not stopping Burrow at all, really. I mean, the Bengals have 21 points at this point. You're right. Maybe they're trying to force things to their big playmakers. It feels like when we were talking about the Steelers, they win the big moments. They know how to win. The Bills are the opposite. The Bills are much more talented than the Steelers, but they really tense up in those moments. It just feels like they try to do too much. They don't have this kind of calm to be able to go and execute game-winning drives. I don't know. I think that for them, this has got to be like just a bad case of deja vu. The Bengals are handing it to them, which they handed it to them in the division round. They probably would have handed it to them had they finished that game last year. These are two teams right now going in opposite directions because the Bills started hot, Bengals started cold. Now the Bengals are finding their groove. They're probably going to be 5-3 after tonight. Bills are going to be 5-4. It's like, right. And last year the Bills were 12-4 because they played 16 games. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe time to think about a new coach. Maybe you need like a Dan Campbell kind of coach to give that Buffalo that toughness that they seem to lack. I don't know.
How are the Steelers and the Bills currently tied? That's my biggest question. That is my
coaching. I believe it's coaching, and it's efficient quarterback play versus flashy quarterback play. I mean, nobody's going to compare Kenny Pickett to Josh Allen, but if you put Josh Allen on the Steelers, maybe they tone it way down, and maybe we don't see Josh Allen put up the big numbers. Maybe they just teach him like, hey, we're going to teach you just how to manage the game. I hate to say game manager. It's not like Roethlisberger was a game manager per se, but they knew how to use him and how to produce good results in clutch situations. I don't know about Sean McDermott at this point. I mean, people like him as a guy. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I don't know. They just don't have that toughness. They need toughness. The Bills, they do. They lack it.
Yeah. If the Bengals win tonight, which I'm going to assume they are,
Yeah.
they
No.
will move into that 7 spot in the playoffs. So be just behind Cleveland because of tiebreakers. But the entire AFC North will be in the playoffs by the end of tonight. That is again assuming the Bengals win. They'll be 5-3. Buffalo will move to 5-4. If you're Buffalo, you're 5-4. I mean, you're with the likes of the Saints right now, the Vikings, and that's it. So I think that's a big cause for concern. I think they're also waiting on Von Miller. I think Von Miller is going to be the big pass rush um, piece that they've been missing, and if they
Yeah,
get him
that
back
hurt.
to full strength,
Mhm.
that's going to be big to help their defense. But they still need to be able to run the ball. Great football teams run the ball and play good defense in January and February and December, really. And if they can't do that, they're not going to survive. All right, quick Monday night preview, and then we'll get out of here. We did run a little late, but Chargers Jets. People are saying the Jets are going to win this game. I don't. It's the Chargers, right? I keep trying to tell myself it's the Chargers. They are not good at anything, but they win games somehow. But they can't be 3-5. I think it's hard for them to be 3-5 right now. I think, the Zach Wilson hype is at its peak. Um, I think it's going to drop, to be honest, and I think the Chargers are going to take this one by 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like both teams should be 4-4, but then again, I thought New England should have 3 wins and Washington shouldn't have 4. So the theory doesn't always work. Yeah, Chargers are in prime time again.
But
Uh,
they're playing in MetLife, and MetLife is like recipe for the worst games ever on primetime.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is true. Maybe we're due for a good game
I think we've
finally.
had like 6 games at MetLife in primetime this year.
Well, Chiefs Jets was actually ended up being pretty good,
That was good.
and actually these teams have not met in 3 years. The Chargers beat the Jets in LA in 2020. The uh, the Jets defense has just come up really big this year. They had the Buffalo game in the first week of the year, and they did a good job for the most part against Mahomes. They had some bad calls in that game, and did a great job against Philly. I mean, their Jets are 4-3, and they're the only team to beat the Eagles. I so badly want to pick the Jets, and I so badly love just seeing the Chargers be the Chargers. But you're right. There's like a feeling that the Chargers are supposed to win this game, and people are picking them, and they're favored. And the Jets are the team that's actually overachieving here. And as usual, the Chargers are underachieving. Um, I mean, it's weird. The Chargers are in prime time 2 weeks in a row. Like, I get it; they're a sexy team, but do we have to watch them on 2 straight, you know, nighttime games? Like,
Actually, is it 3?
was it 3?
I think they played Dallas 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Football.
Was that 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago?
Because I think it was week 6.
No,
So
it was it
maybe
was it was it was week 6. Yeah, week 7 that
I
was
don't know what my math was
in
doing there.
San
I
Francisco
don't.
and Minnesota. No, the Chargers played the Chiefs 31-17.
Yes.
But you're right. 3. I mean, 3 out of 4. It's just way too much. Too much Chargers. A lot of Jets too. Of course, thought Aaron Rodgers would be the guy, but um,
Rodgers
yeah,
Rodgers might come back.
maybe. I mean, there's no way that there's ever going to be a scenario where they won't just put him right back in there. I mean, even if the Jets are like 9-3 with Zach Wilson, everyone will say, well, it'll be because of the defense or because of Robert Saleh or because of, the receivers. It won't be because of Zach Wilson. So, Rodgers doesn't have to worry about how much the Jets win. He's still got his job. But yeah, this is a big game for the Chargers though. Cause yeah, if you fall to 3-5, you're really facing an uphill battle for postseason spot. But all of a sudden, at the moment, technically, the Chargers are behind the Raiders in the standings, and they're only a half game up on Denver in as
Oof.
far as being behind the Chiefs in the AFC West. And so it's it's an important game for the Jets too, obviously, but it feels like more of a must win for the Chargers. It really does. And so I would lean towards taking the Chargers, but I never trust them. I never trust them.
I know that's why I'm like so against it, because I just feel like if they're expected to win, they're never gonna win.
Right.
That's just the Charger
They
way.
are favored. Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. Tickets are as low as $50 for a Monday night game.
Mm.
So, and it's supposed to only be 49 degrees, so not bad for, especially, I mean, I don't know how it's $50. That'd be awesome. But yeah, this is not gonna end on a good note. I have a feeling I think it's gonna be a dud of a game, but at least it's not gonna be Bears Chargers.
No more Bears.
Yeah, I don't want to see them ever again. All right, well, thank you all for listening. Make sure to catch my Tecmo Bowl stream. It's the AFC Championship, and I'll also be showing the whole NFC Championship. It's Niners and Bears. I just said I don't want to ever see the Bears again. Well, I might have to see them in the Super Bowl. And we're playing the Raiders, Bo Jackson and the Raiders. So that's going to be a very difficult game, especially my run defense was like third worst in the league this year. So, but we'll get a dub. Wednesday night, 8 p.m., big game. Be ready. It's going to be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and chaoticallyintolerant.com. And then we also, me, Michael, and Curtis Brown from the AFC South show will be doing a mid-season report card for the NFL. So check that out probably Tuesday or Wednesday morning.
Hey, we did well when we made our mid-season baseball picks. We both had the Rangers in the World Series.
We did. Yeah, we can't forget about that. Everyone
can't forget about that. I had them winning this series in 5. It was probably about the only series they got right all postseason, but save the best for last.
Yeah, go Rangers. Can you take me higher?
Yes. Yes. It's too bad they didn't play the Phillies in the World Series. It would have really led in nicely to this Dallas-Philly thing today at rivalry.
Oh my God, yeah. Whew. I wish that the NFL should have paid Major League Baseball just to rig it.
Just to have the Phillies Rangers play up to a Game 7 Saturday night, and then the Cowboys Eagles just cap the weekend off in style.
Oh man, the city would be buzzing. Both cities would be buzzing.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, the whole thing, and we will see you next week.